Good afternoon. This is the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners for June 6, 2017. I'm Commissioner Bud Blake, and I'm the chair of the board this year. I'd like to start off by doing introductions. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards.
That's close.
To my right is John Hutchins. And to his right is Labanita Bomar, clerk of the board. And to her right is the county manager, Ramiro Chavez. And to his right is Robin Campbell, the assistant county manager and budget officer. With that in mind, I ask John Hutchins to do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Please stand. Join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Great. So with that in mind, I'll call the meeting to order. And the first item we'll have is the approval of today's agenda for June 6, 2017.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda for June 6, 2017.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so the motion carries. Next item is the approval of the board meeting minutes for May 23, 2017.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the board meeting minutes from May 23, 2017.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the board meeting minutes for May 23, 2017. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so that motion carries. So the next item we have is the opportunity for the public to address the board. And so if you haven't been here before, we've changed just a little bit. We used to have the stoplight portion of that where Labanita read off and had a countdown and you saw the amber, green, red, and amber. Now we have the stoplight up here on the wall. And it goes in reverse order from 3 minutes to 0 minutes. And so when you come to the podium, I ask you just to state your name and generally where you're from in the county. And when it gets down to the 0, it's going to give you this little buzzer sound. Something like that, right? Yeah. But if you're in mid-thought, I'll ask you to kind of finish up. I'll let you finish up your mid-thought, but at some point in time, I'll ask you to bring it to a closure. So with that in mind, I have a list of those who signed in, and some had said no, and some had said yes. Even if you said no, I'll ask in the end for if there's an all call for those who've had changed their mind. But I'll go in the order of which you signed up, first come, first served, okay? And so I'm going to start with, is it Stephen Lazon or Lazar? Yeah, come on up to the podium, sir. How you doing today?
Good, how you doing?
Good, you have the floor.
I just want to say thank you to the commissioners. I appreciate you guys taking a more taxpayer approach compared to what I've seen in the past where millions of dollars wasted. I just basically want to address that I do live out at Summit Lake. I am fully aware of the water quality issues. I can tell you that I've been drinking the water, I've been bathing, washing my clothes, dishes in the lake water for the last 18 years to include this period of time where we have an emergency on the lake. And I've not had any issues. My neighbors had their water independently tested. Water seems to be fine. So I have no problems drinking the water. I'm disappointed to hear people who live on the lake claiming that they've seen dead deer floating in the lake. I hate exaggeration of something in these circumstances. To me, that's just nothing more than a way to press an issue, to garner more support for whatever that may be, such as impact fees on septic systems. You know, we started off this septic system, we wanted $65 for out at Summit Lake. Then it went to 10, and now I'm hearing they want $150. I'm not convinced that forking over money is going to resolve our issues. You know, I want to know what the issue is before we start forking over money. We have our fair share of people out at the lake that cause problems. There's no doubt about it. You know, we have people who feed the waterfowl. You know, we have people that don't perform regular maintenance on their septic systems. We have people who clear cut into property and dump soil and rock and without any regards towards water runoff. We have people off-roading in streams that feed our lake and also have kokanee bedding in there. You know, if there are signs of septic leak, the end user needs to address it. They're required, not required, but it's basic that every 3 to 5 years you have your septic system emptied. Every 3 years you should be performing maintenance on it by a professional. Make it mandatory. I don't want anybody breathing down my throat. there's, and we all know that once a septic system gets pumped out, a copy goes to the county. That gets recorded, okay? If somebody's not performing maintenance, send up notification, make them get it resolved. I don't want to be like King County where we're dumping, 200 million gallons of raw sewage in. We're not like that. But think about this thoroughly before we put an impact fee on the users on the lake. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you for your words on this topic, sir. So the next person I have is Mr. John Pettit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm John Pettit. I live on Rich Road. You're all familiar with me, and I'm certainly familiar with you. Today, I'm actually coming in because I've done some more significant study related to certain issues. And my biggest single concern I have is that you have a tendency to follow the direction of staff, and staff has a tendency to misdirect you in your actions. And when I say that, we can start off with, recently you purchased a building number 6 over here, which you're all familiar with. And the unfortunate reality is that it needs a major investigation related to that. And the reason why is because there are some significant financial questions that have come forward, including the idea of how you decided to come up with a price. The price was determined by the same real estate people that in my opinion, behind the backs of the county that hired them to represent them, negotiated a commission to be paid. They earned $42,000 because they raised the price. Then they suggested, in fact, that the property was worth more. But the truth is, you've never had an appraisal on the property. You never had an inspection on the property. And there was another element here as to why did they bother buying it. It was suggested that there was a question about the tenancy that could be moved out. I asked for public disclosure for who made that legal determination. I know about legal documents in real estate. It doesn't exist. So there's a problem here. And I believe you paid about $600,000 too much. So with that, I'm going to end up handing some documents over here after I get done. Another issue is that apparently we don't understand process very good. One of the reasons why process is important is because it causes accountability. Nobody is in complete control. Let's just take building number 6 again. I looked through every resolution that was been made by you as a commission. Did you know you never approved the purchase of that building with a resolution? To this date, you still haven't approved it. But the county spent $1.8 million. How does that happen? To give somebody a $100 raise, you got to go through a resolution. So we aren't following process. The next little short thing I'll cover is apparently Central Services now feel they can hire appraisers. Well, you need to know that the county code requires that if you're going to have an appraisal for real property, it has to be done through the Public Works Director, not the Central Services Director, especially by the same guy who may decide to approve a price on something that is in fact not within the boundaries of where it should be. That's accountability. You have different people watching, reporting to you, then you get a better picture. I'll hand these things over.
Yep.
I encourage you, feel free to get a hold of me, either individually or together,
you bet.
and we can go over a much more in-depth study on this particular
All right.
issue.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. So the next person I have on the list is Mr. Gordon Darby. Hello, sir. How you doing here?
Good, how are you?
You got the floor. Go ahead.
My name again is Gordon Darby. I live at Summit Lake. I'm the chairperson of a community group that's come together as a Summit Lake Water Quality Team. We had another meeting out at Summit Lake of the association. We had over 100 people attend. Typically, we have less than 20. So obviously, it's a big deal as far as a priority for the lake people and the water quality. we came out of that and believe we're heading towards a consensus that we want to maintain testing of the water out there. We're looking at some scientific expert help, which another gentleman mentioned, as far as find out why or what the deal is. So we're looking into that. We also talked about septic system testing of being 100% of a requirement on that. What form that is we're still talking about that and trying to figure that out as far as what we'll come to the county with. And what we will be asking the county for is a list of people who now do test, because again, the gentleman mentioned that information comes to the county, is available. Also, we're looking at doing an education program with everybody at the lake with your team's help as well on contributing factors to lake quality out there, like fertilizer and home products, that sort of thing. So just with that said, I just wanted to make sure that that you understood that we were doing this. The lake community is interested, to say the least, and we'll be coming back and working with your team. And again, I appreciate your team's help on this in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in today, sir. The next person I have, I think it's Jeffrey Bennett. Is it a Jeffrey Bennett? Yeah, Jeffrey, come on up. Can you do me a small
Afternoon.
favor? Pull the mic down just a tad. There you go.
Like
Right there.
that?
Yep,
You
good.
can- Okay. Afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Jerry Bennett, 1706 Timberlake Court Southeast, Lacey, Washington, 503, and phone number is 491-2981. I believe I presented you with a sheet of what I outlined,
I
right?
have that. Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is an outline of my perceptions of the reality or from reality as they are happened or have happened. I have ownership. My stake in Long Lake has improved recreational values. A 50-year resident of Thurston County, 40 years as a resident of Long Lake, 28 years of Lakes Management District work, generated or provided more than $10,000 self-voted taxes beyond the county tax, property tax. Hundreds of volunteer hours involved in subcommittee meetings, steering committee meetings, work plan and budget development, newsletters for resident communications, money to provide boat, materials, equipment, and labor. Then we come to reality. There's an attitude. Mr. Chavez's, Mr. Lindblom, and Mr. Wilson, as reflected in actions from the Public Works Department. Now you gotta realize, and I realize, these are my perceptions, okay? However, the following are facts as I understand them. Non-negotiable work plan, non-negotiable budgeting, dictated 5% assessment increase per year, dictated more than $2,000 contribution to the Geo Data Center because that was our share. Increased our share of the Geo Data Center fee for 2018 budget. Dictated $8,000 to remodel a basement for office space at Tilley Road. The dollars were actually used to provide second floor office space. Dedicated a maintenance fee for office space in the budget. Increased county staff from 0.6 full-time equivalents to 1.2 full-time equivalents. No bid sweetheart professional service contracts through 2021. 2018 budget without accountability delineation. 10-year budget projections to show a need for more dollars to fund projects of questionable value. Diving, water lily treatment, yellow water lily treatment. Build an alum treatment reserves fund. Soluble and insoluble phosphorus studies. Additional monitoring of lake water level. Oh my
Yep,
God.
that's where we're at.
Okay, perceived and real message from the Public Works Department. Lake residents are irrelevant and deplorable. Told to form a SUD if you don't like the way we do it. I was directly told not to contact any contractors or Public Works Department staff with questions. That's why the FOIA.
Okay. Are you
So-
almost there, sir? Almost there? Are you almost done?
Got about, yes.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Solution to mitigate the realities: dissolve the LMD, form a special utilities district, let the Public Works continue to steal the reserve funds, move management to LMD or to another department. In conclusion, no changes in the Public Works attitude implies a new normal for Thurston County government moving forward, and that's a question, and I consider that so sad. And you have an attachment, which is a sample of the FOIA request.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for your perceptions of facts, sir. Okay, next person I have is Mr. Doug Carmen.
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Carmen. I live at 4108 Cairo Road in Lacey, Olympia, whatever you want to call it. I'm in an urban growth area.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the president of the Long Lake Management District, and here with me today are 7 members of the board. I'd like to introduce them. First, we have Keith Underwood. We have Rhonda Egolf, Rod Egolf, Julie Lundstad, Susan Draper, John Woodford, and Jim Dunn. Jerry, who just spoke, is also a member of the board, but wasn't speaking for the board. Each of them intend to speak, but in recognition of your time and whatnot, they have yielded their time to me so that it will go a lot faster and be continuity. So if you need them to say that, we should do that now.
It's their choice,
Okay.
strictly individual choice here.
Okay. We've had a 30-year plus relationship with Thurston County in working on water quality and working on water safety, in working on how to balance the environment with recreational uses and all of that. It has always been an us situation, the county and us. Since we were transferred to the Department of Public Works, it is now a we and they, which we can't continue. Over these 30 years, we have had petitions that we worked with all of our neighborhoods in to ask the commissioners to form the LMDs and resolutions, or no, not resolutions, but and you have authorized it. And in each of those, it said that the steering committee would be formed, which is representative of the neighborhoods, and that the steering committee would direct the efforts and the funds of the LMD. And that's what the last one said, to form District Number 21 this last year. But when it got to you to sign, the words were changed, unbeknownst to us, from us directing the activities and the funds. It was changed to, we now advise the county on how to do the work. So I'm sure you didn't see any difference in change, and we didn't see it either, but we didn't know about it. That just can't work. I'll give you a real-life example that just happened. Every year we do 2 newsletters. We do one in the fall at the end of the season to tell people, our members, what we did and what they can do over the winter to protect the lake, those kinds of things. In the spring, we do another newsletter, which tells the local residents that what we're going to do during the summer. It talks to them about what plants they can plant around the lake, how they should fertilize their lawns so they're not putting nitrates and different things into the lake, those kinds of things. And so we also this time plan to have articles in there from different county departments talking about septic systems and to educate our community to protect the water quality of the lake. Unbeknownst to us, the week after the newsletter was supposed to be published, we had our monthly meeting, and we were told that the county decided to cancel our newsletter and put it off until the fall. How can you cancel our newsletter?
Sure. Almost there?
Pardon me?
Almost done? Almost done?
No, well, I can, but you want someone to stand up and
No,
yield?
so I
their
just want to
time?
give you your 3 minutes to speak individually, and then we'll proceed forward there. I'm trying to get a public meeting going here, okay?
Yeah, but I've got 7 people who are yielding their time to me. Is that
No,
not
sir, we don't yield
okay?
time. No, sir, we don't yield time. 3 minutes per person. 3 minutes per person, sirs.
So I have one of them stand up beside me
Yeah,
while I
sure,
keep
they can
talking?
come up individually, yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's how it's been done.
Keith, you want to stand up?
He's next on my list. Yeah, yeah.
You want to tell them who you are and what you are and yield?
My name is Keith Underwood.
Yeah, step into the mic, sir, and then give me your name, and where you're
My-
at, and address.
My name
okay?
is Keith Underwood. I'm a member of the Long Lake Management District. I live 8634 Oxford Drive Southeast in Lacey. And I yield my 3 minutes to,
No, sir, we
Can I
don't
yield?
yield any
Okay.
minutes. You have the floor for the 3 minutes.
who do you want me to start? Okay. As Doug stated in his comments, the requested action was that we ask that you make a ruling that the steering committee directs the efforts and the funds of the LMD. For over 30 years, the county has considered the work we do as valuable. We were funding and doing the work that the county should be doing but couldn't afford. Therefore, water resources provided staff to do the work required, but only charged for the actual time spent on the LMDs. When you combine the Lake Lawrence and the Long Lake districts, we were charged with the equivalent of 0.74 FTE in 2012, including management, overhead, and other staff charges, in parentheses, salaries. These are from the 2012, I'll line my bifocals up here, as they are only hard numbers, the only hard numbers that we have. However, they are representative of history. Of this total, the aquatic resource specialists made up 0.63 FTEs for both LMDs. Water resources utilized that specialist 0.37 FTE for other department work. Now, the DPW, Department of Public Works, says they can't use the aquatic resource specialist person for anything else, so that the two LMDs have to pay 100% of this position plus other staff and supervision. The total FTEs budgeted by the Department of Public Works for 2017 is 1.015 for Long Lake and 0.047 for Lake Lawrence. I'm sorry, 0.47. That equates to 1.485 FTEs. Our work plan does not need this kind of staffing. The two LMDs only need up to 0.5 FTEs of the aquatic resource specialist position. The Department of Public Works Noxious Weed Management is trying to utilize other staff members to do work that does not require the specialties of the aquatic resource specialist. While this is good management, it does not reduce the hours charged to the aquatic resource specialist, even though this reduces her workload. So it does nothing more than cost the district additional funds. Requested action, we would request that you provide a mechanism or directive to the Department of Public Works to only charge for the actual hours of aquatic resource specialist spends on the lake management districts, and charge him or her to other areas for the remaining time. I'm going to let somebody else come up.
Sure. My next person is Rhonda. Are you Rhonda, ma'am?
I am.
Yeah, sure.
I am Rhonda Rosenoff. I live at 7129 20th Avenue Southeast on Long
Pull the
Lake.
mic down just a tad, a little bit more. There you go. Now we
Okay,
can hear you.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Interfund and overhead charges have gone up significantly since joining the DPW. We feel that we represent a bucket of money the DPW can just dip into and help other departments. While we are not looking for a free pass, we are looking for some preferential treatment due to the work we do for the residents of Thurston County. We not only serve the 1,300-plus parcels in our district, but also a large county resident day use population. With our 30-plus years of work, the significant fisheries asset would be a bog. Requested action, find a way to only charge those overhead charges that are directly related to the LMDs. For the past 30 years, we have been able to manage our programs and cash flow very efficiently. We have even gone out and borrowed funds to make sure we were adequately financed to complete a large project needed in 1 year. In 2013, we reduced our fees by 10%, which put them at the 2005 level. That was done because our reserve was increasing and we wanted to be able to be responsible to our members. Now that we are with the DPW, we see our administration county costs skyrocketing. In 2018, the DPW tells us that our administration interfund cost will be at $150,000 against my projected revenues of $190,583. In 2014, administration interfund costs were $83,585 against revenue of $171,347. In 2016, our administration interfund costs were $85,899 against revenue of $179,342. Since our professional services are budgeted $124,600, in 2018, we will need to increase our borrowing from our reserve to cover the significant administration costs. In addition, the DPW will require a rate increase in 2018, whether we want one or not. In fact, their initial direction was that we would need a maximum allowed 5% increase each year in the foreseeable future. The need for the increase is because of the administration interfund cost increases of about 3% per year versus inflation of less than 1%. There is nothing we can do about our county's increased responsibilities. Our programs remain pretty much the same. We are more effective, one more sentence?
One more sentence, sure. Mhm.
We are more effective and therefore should not incur the 3% increase. Our requested action, the county commissioners direct the DPW to give the LMS relief from the high 3% overhead increases.
Okay, thank you so much, Rhonda. I have, is it Rod Egoff next? Hmm? Come on up, sir.
Conclusion.
I know, something, right, okay. We want to have a partnership with,
Rod, Can you pull the mic down just a tad? There you go.
I'm Rod Egoff. I live on 20th Avenue, Long Lake,
Great.
Lacey.
Go ahead.
Okay. We want to have a partnership relationship rather than an advisory relationship with the DPW. The attorneys are not making too big deal about liability and procedures over a program that is less than $300,000 when you combine with the LMDs. Your support in bringing common sense back into the relationship with fulfilling the intent of the RCW and the neighborhood petition will be appreciated. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anything else you'd like to say? No? Anything else you'd like to say?
So I've been on the board since conception of this thing back in the very beginning. And we always had a very nice relationship with the county. We appreciated it, and we seem to be partners. And it's just not that way at all anymore. And really concerned about it. And all my neighbors of my neighborhood that I represent don't understand what's going on. We don't seem to be getting anything done, and we're running out of money.
Sure.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. So the next person I have is Julie Lundstad. Is there a Julie Lundstad? No? Would you like to say something? No. Okay, sure. So the next person is it John Woodford? John, you pass also? Okay. Susan Draper? Pass. Mr. Barry Halverson? Yeah, come on up, Barry. Sure, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Barry Halverson. I'm a member of the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District Citizens Advisory Committee. There are a couple points in my letter that I'm going to give you after I finish this that I would like to highlight for you at this time. In 2017-18 adopted budget we were presented in February shows county FTE and administrative overhead costs billed to the LMD are projected to be 56% of revenue. This means the LMD is projected to spend more than it raises in assessments in 2017, placing the LMD in a downward funding spiral. The 10-year budget plan provided by the Public Works Budget Office shows the LMD spending even with a 5% year increase in assessments unsustainable by the end of 2018. We have been told by Public Works that our only choice to prevent an unsustainable budget and get our budget back in line is to reduce or cut our nuisance weed treatment program, which is essential in keeping dock, boat launch, and other areas open for swimming, boating, and fishing. The FTE changes in 2014, when the full cost of supporting the aquatic resource specialist was paid by the LMD, were never coordinated with or even discussed with the LMD committee. FTE changes in 2016 that impacted the 2017-18 budget, once again, were never coordinated or discussed with the LMD committee. There has been a concerted effort by the Department of Public Works to take control of the LMD program and budget. This past year, there was a significant change made to the new LMD renewal document signed by the Board of County Commissioners in June. Remember, I spoke with you in June 28th of 2016 about this, Commissioner. Immediately after that happened, 2 months later, the 2017-18 budget was taken into consideration. We were not informed, and the LMD FTE and budget costs went up again. The previous resolution, number 14532, stated, the LMD Advisory Committee is responsible for directing the efforts and funds of the LMD. The new resolution was changed to read by someone in the county to work with the county to develop work plans and budgets. Significant change, significant impact on the LMD and our ability to manage the lake. The county didn't work with the LMD to develop the work plan and budget for 2017-18, and we weren't briefed on the budget until February 2017, after it had already been briefed to you and adopted. The LMD program is a citizens initiative program, and in accordance with state statute, is formed under a county to assist the LMD in coordinating efforts to provide stewardship for the lake. There are 3 recommendations in my letter at the end of, on page 3. First one is that you acknowledge and inform DPW that the LMD Citizens Advisory Committee is to direct the efforts and funds of the LMD. Second is for you to, in accordance with the state statute, tell DPW that the LMD is to be charged only for those services that the county provides. The third is that you direct DPW and other county offices to find ways to reduce administrative overhead on the LMD. We're not saying that we don't want to pay for what we spend, just that they need to be a hell of a lot more careful on what they're doing.
Thank you so much for your words, sir. I appreciate it.
So what I'd like to do is give you a copy.
Yeah, give it to him, sir, in the pink, in the purple. I have the pink, sorry. Loma Halverson, are you, pass? Okay, sure. Okay, Mr. Ross Lampke? Yes, sir, come on up. There you go. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I'm also a Summit Lake resident. I'm concerned about the water quality, and having knowledge of some of the other people in the area, your monitoring system is not currently working under septic. At this 3-year program, every 3 years you're supposed to fill out the paperwork, have it tested. I personally know one that just pumped it for 9 years. So there is no follow-up to this voluntary sort of program you have. I'm not a fan of fees. I'm not a fan of extra taxes. But there is nobody holding these people accountable to this. And regardless if this is the sole source of our problems, I don't want to swim in someone else's septic tank. So I support impact fees for that purpose. I support a monitoring program for that purpose and the continued cleansing of the lake. I really appreciate the health department's involvement. We aren't using the showers. We aren't cooking with the stuff. We aren't doing all those things because of the numbers that they're coming back with. I spent too much time on the internet reading and realized that stuff is not good. And my wife is firmly implanted in that as well. So I really appreciate the responsiveness Department of Health is given. They answer your phone calls, and if they're not there, they're calling back the next day. Everybody I've talked to in that department has been helpful. They've been kind and polite, and they've tried to help us out every way as possible, and we just like to continue that relationship. Thank you.
Thank you for your input today, sir. Okay, I have Mr. Jack Grimes as a maybe. I don't know which way you want to go. Yes? No, I will speak. Okay, sure. Come on up.
My name is Jack Grimes. I live on 76th Avenue Northeast in Northeast Thurston County. I want to thank you gentlemen for the opportunity to speak and for you accepting the challenge of being county commissioners for Thurston County. Your goals for moving the county forward show that you have great leadership. One of our biggest challenges, as well as the ones I've heard about today, is making improvements in the departments where there is necessary improvement. My issue is with the Planning and Permitting Department. I think that they're one of your bigger problems. Some of the staff in that department are still operating with excessive interpretations of county ordinances and state law. It appears to be their goal to delay projects or make them too expensive or apply excessive interpretations to limit or deny projects. My short plat application after 7 months is still a hostage in that department. The unreasonable approach to fulfilling their administrative responsibilities is a large part of the reason the department has a large backlog. The method of doing business that they currently operate under only adds to the problem. They are padding their bill unnecessarily. My research indicates that the planning department applies a different standard for developers in the UGA than they do for those of us living outside the city or the UGA. The planning department has a responsibility to require everyone to do their part to allow Thurston County to stay in compliance with the State Growth Management Act. Thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you, sir, for your input. I'm moving on to my next list, and I have Mr. Jim Dunn. You pass? Sure. All right, next person is Justin Cover.
Before I begin, I have packets for the commissioners, if I may.
Just give them to Romero real quick.
All right. I'm going to need you to follow along with these during my presentation, if you'd be so kind.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Justin Cover, live in District 3, most currently at Cooper Point. I'm here to talk to you again about science. I came here to talk to you about the pocket gopher several years ago to a new commission. I'd like to direct you to the first page of the packet that I just gave you. This is from the Center for Earth and Environmental Science at Indiana University and Purdue University at Indianapolis. At the very bottom of the first page, you're going to see an outline for neurotoxins. This document outlines peer-reviewed science for the LD50 for the anatoxins that exist in Summit Lake. You'll notice for anatoxin A5, which is at the very bottom of that sheet, the LD50 is 200 to 250 micrograms. Now, if you just flip over to the very top of the next page, you will see another strain of anatoxin, anatoxin AS. The LD50, which again is the lethal dose for 50% of the human population, is 20 nanograms per kilogram. Now I'd like to direct you to the very last page in that packet that I gave you. This is the Summit Lake algae toxin testing results put out by the Department of Health here at the county. Now if you go to page 9, this is where we have the citation for 354 nanograms per liter existing at some place in Summit Lake. The thing that strikes me as interesting about this data is that this is over 100 nanograms per liter above the lethal dose of this anatoxin. Not enough to make you sick. This is what kills people, brings on the respiratory symptoms that have been described with this toxin. Okay. I'm wondering where all the dead people are at Summit Lake. We've heard individuals here testifying before you today that drink that water, that wash in that water, and we don't have any of those systems existing. I know that some of the citizens here at Summit Lake may remember the last time Summit Lake water quality was at issue. It came out later that the water samples that were taken by the county authorities were not taken at Summit Lake. They were taken many miles east at Kennedy Creek Quarry. Now, the other point I'd like to make, given the county's data on this last piece of paper here, is I want you to look, some of these are taken from taps around Summit Lake, and some of them are taken from the lake itself. Now, not only will you notice generally a downward trend of toxicity levels, but you will also notice that at no time during any of this event has there ever been a dangerous level of anatoxin in any tap in Summit Lake. In fact, only 2 of the taps that they tested even had the presence of anatoxin. I want to make sure that you commissioners know what's going on here. It doesn't make sense that we've got lethal doses of a toxin being indicated in a lake, but we have no symptoms from anybody.
Thank you for your words, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Von Hodgins?
Yeah, Vaughn Hodgins, live at Summit Lake. Probably the only Summit Lake guy here that's got a different topic. I just wanted to see if we can, one of the things that are a concern for me out at the lake right now currently, and I'm not sure if this is the right venue or not, but is to ask that we get road maintenance scheduled out there earlier, sooner than later. It's lots of curves, lots of things, and the grass got really high. It's becoming dangerous for people to pull out on different intersections and curves and stuff. So right venue?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you much. And the other thing I would just say, I'm the 2017 president of the Summit Lake Community Association. I just want to let the commission know that we are striving to come up with a consensus at Summit Lake. And, you know, we're not trying to push or pull, but we do value the quality of the lake water and the ability for quality of life on Summit Lake. So I appreciate everything that Thurston County has done to be reactive, getting water surplus and supplies and stuff out there. And I just want to let you know that we do continue to come up with a consensus of the community, and we will try and work continually to bring that information forward to the commission so that you guys have a better opportunity to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, sir. Mr. Jack Benjamin.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Benjamin. My wife and I bought our home on Summit Lake 3 months ago. After 30 years as administrators in Wisconsin state government, we chose to relocate to this area for several reasons. It's beautiful. We have family here in Port Orchard and Kirkland, and there is a reputation here for effective and progressive government at all levels. We have had fun establishing our new home in Thurston County, and I want to personally thank the county and state employees who've been so helpful. I also want to thank the commissioners for your attention to our water problems on Summit Lake, and to the staff in the Departments of Health and Public Works who have worked with us. Many university and public health authorities have identified toxic algae as an increasing problem, not just here, but around the world. What makes our situation so serious is that the lake provides tap water for virtually all of its residents. Both property values and the local economy will be affected until safe water and customary uses of the lake can be restored. I believe that some reasonable goals for this situation are to work to reduce the levels of toxins, to continue to test the lake to provide us with some confidence that the water is safe, and to work to mitigate conditions that are associated with the presence or development of toxins. And I think we can accomplish this both by reducing nutrient levels in the lake related perhaps to inadequate septic systems, runoff from different sources, bird and animal waste, other pollutants, and also through ongoing water quality testing by the county. I see this situation as one where lake residents are directly experiencing the crisis, and I believe that the county and the state have resources, responsibility, and authority to help, as reflected in public statements, budget documents, statutes, strategic plans, and other such. From the taxes we pay, I know that resources are budgeted at federal, state, and county levels to address water quality issues. County officials and staff have expertise regarding access to these resources, and I ask for your sense of urgency in addressing our problem and your priority in helping to address resources accordingly. I see this as an opportunity to work together to maintain public health and to restore a beautiful lake. I see this as an opportunity for government, citizens, business, and universities to show how to resolve these kinds of problems associated with algae to the benefit of our area and beyond. And I'd simply add that I don't want to be the first person to suffer from the effects of potentially toxic water. I don't really hold a lot of stock in decision by anecdote. So I hope for your continued assistance, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your words today too, sir. Is it Deborah Martinelli? Hi, ma'am. There you go, pull it down, there you go.
Hello, I'm Deborah Martinelli, and I live on Summit Lake as well.
Good.
Jack and I live in the same home, but we didn't really compare our remarks. As it turns out, I will be supporting a lot of his remarks.
That's all right.
As a resident of Summit Lake, I think I can speak for almost everybody that we need a safe and reliable drinking water supply. I do believe also that we need continued testing of our water supply, as is done with almost any other water supply in any municipality. We have 600 homes, or 600 properties, and I've heard the number of over 400 homes. Many of those homes have permits that have been authorized by the county or the Department of Ecology to draw water from the lake. Many of us also have wells, some of which are dry, some of which produce, and some of which are very low producing and really unreliable sources of water. I am here today to ask you to continue the testing of the lake, even if the next test comes back okay, because at least we are getting data that will be regular, consistent data if that testing is continued on a regular basis. And we as residents can then make informed decisions about whether we use the lake in any way, whether we drink the water, whether we launder our clothes, whether we take showers, and whether we fish and eat those fish. It's important public information for us to have. We are not technicians who are able to take those samples ourselves, or we would probably all be doing it. But I would encourage you to look into continued sampling and to build a database about our problem, because we will need your help in the future if this is not work that started today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and testifying today too. Next person I have, I think it's, and forgive me for the last name, but the first name I think is Carl Joseph or Carl Jeffries. Okay, Jeffries.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. There
And
you
welcome, commissioners and new commissioners.
go. Yeah. Can you
You're
state
doing-
from where in the county you're from?
I'm Carl Japhet, and I live at 527 Summit Lake Shore Road.
Okay, sure. You have the
I-
floor, sir.
Yes, and I've lived there for over 70 years. And this phenomenon that's going on now, I don't think is new. It's something that back when I was a child, that certain time of the year, we'd have this type of a thing that would happen. And we used to have these fish in the lake that were called chubs, or there's another name for them, but they poisoned the lake to get rid of those. But they would die off at a certain time of year, and I'm sure it could have been from a toxin. But it was, and then generally this time of year. I think the problem that happened this year, we had so much rainfall, so the chemical composition of the lake changed, because I don't think I remember a time when we've had that much rainfall. But it's something that happens from time to time, and I think that if the tests were made, it's at least 3 feet, an additional test was made at least 3 feet down in the water, I think you'd probably find that those tests would be coming back clean. In the summertime, and when I'd swim, and there'd be massive amounts of people on the lake, you would notice, if you opened your eyes underwater, that there would be about 3 inches of sediment, and from that period on down, it's perfectly clear. And so because the water gets colder and colder as you go down, and if you go down 10 feet, you're getting in about the same temperature it is year-round. And our water supply is over springs. Now, Summit Lake is kind of a unique lake because it doesn't have any really water flowing into it other than the rainfall that falls. And so we have one major creek in what we call the cove, and that does have some fish that go up to spawn in it. But the lake is pretty much provided by underwater springs. So we have water coming up all the time and water running off all the time. So that's the reason the water there is quite pure. One of the challenges I think we have that I'd like the county to address is in the summertime, we have these big gatherings of boats that tie up together, and they drink a lot of beer, and they don't have toilets on their boats. So you can imagine what's happening. So I think that if we could address that somehow to maybe make it so that we don't have 15 or 20 boats tied up together and they're out there all day long. So anyway, I appreciate the job you guys are doing. Keep it up, and we'll back you. All right? Thank you.
Thank you for your words, sir. So that's all the people that I have that checked yes on there. I'm just going to scan the list here. For those who checked no or passed, or I might have forgotten you, just by show of raise of hand, who would like to come to the podium and address the board before I close the opportunity for the public to address the board. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Nobody. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you. I'd just like to read to the record an email that you received today, and this related to the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District. This is from Ms. Roberta Allen, and she lives on Lawrence Place Southeast. And it's a very lengthy email, so I don't have all the 3 minutes. So I'm going to give you the gist of her comments, and I will submit this email as part of the record. Ms. Allen has been a resident of Lawrence Lake for 19 years. She is a member of the Lawrence Lake Management District, as well as the Citizens Advisory Committee, what they call the CAC. She regularly attends the meetings. They're open to the public, and as she understands, those are not elected members. They're all voluntary, requires no votes, and any decision are placed to discuss lake issues that affect all of us. I understand that one of or more members of the Citizens Advisory Committee plan to attend the June 6, 2017 meeting to address issues about the county's involvement in our LMD, including budget issues. I would like to express that the opinion of those members do not necessarily reflect the opinions of all members. I am unable to attend your meeting due to prior commitments. I would like to this letter to reflect my public comment of these issues. This letter may be read into the record as you wish. It seems like one of the main complaints is the high FTE and administrative costs. These costs take away from funding actually applying to lake issues. A cut in FTEs has been suggested. However, our budget has only 0.4725 FTEs, which is less than 1/2 of one person. Jenny Seville is the staff person who supports the Lake Management District, accounts for 0.3 FTEs. I believe Tim Wilson, which provides the management of the Jenny, accounts for 6%, which is 0.6 FTE. The remaining 0.1125 FTE will be technical support and support staff. They account for the 12 hours of Mr. Seville per week, 2.4 hours for Mr. Wilson, and 4.45 hours of technical and support staff for a total of 18.9 hours per week. She perceives to be more than inadequate, and she does not support cutting FTEs. And she goes on and describing additional information.
Okay, we have it on the record now. Okay, with that in mind, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is number 2, the county manager's update. And I'll turn back to the county manager for any response.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have a brief update on the Summit Lake. This is related to some of the, I believe it was an article on the Olympian where they cited perhaps some dead deer and some dead animals floating on the lake. The report from staff is that in fact, the staff has talked to one of the residents, and I'd like to protect the name of the residents at this point, who had seen 2 dead deer on their property. However, this was reported prior to the May 9th event in which we found the anatoxin levels being high. Also, staff has talked to 2 individuals, which they've seen one dead goose, but it appears the other individual have seen the same goose dead, so it's probably only one they have seen. Staff has received reports from a lake resident of a dog having convulsions and seizures. The dog was taken to a veterinarian clinic, and it was recovered fairly soon after that. Also, staff received some complaints of a resident. They had some stomach pains, rash, and vomiting after a shower. Staff contacted the Thurston veterinarians in the Thurston County area, and also some of the medical providers on May 9th, and the staff to this point has not received any reports from the veterinarians or physicians about possible exposure for anatoxin. Staff has also reached out to Washington Fish and Wildlife about the situation of the potential dead animals, and Fish and Wildlife had not responded to Public Health and Social Services to make a connection between the perceived sightings of dead deer or dead goose to be related to the lake issues. That's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item we have on the agenda is the consent items, which is consent items A through G. And is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent items A through G.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent items A through G. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So we'll move on to departmental items, which is item number 4, Public Works. And in here, we'll have Mr. Scott Davis come to the podium. This is a request for approval of a master interlocal agreement between Thurston and Mason County.
All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So I'm here to request for approval of a master interlocal agreement between Thurston County and Mason County for roadway maintenance activities such as roadway striping, street lighting, and pavement repairs. Earlier this year, Mason County asked if Thurston County could provide roadway striping for this calendar year. We provided them a quote, and or at least if we provide the services, it's significantly less than how they were contracting out previously. And so an intergovernmental agreement is necessary to allow this cooperation to occur. The intergovernmental agreement is more general in nature, so it allows for cooperation between both agencies if there are services they could provide us at some point that would be cost effective for us to engage in. We haven't done paint striping or maintenance work for Mason County recently, but we did have an agreement that lapsed several years ago where we did do maintenance work and paint striping from, I guess, in the middle of the previous decade. This agreement's for 5 years, and again, it allows for intergovernmental cooperation on roadway maintenance activities such as striping, which I mentioned, street lighting, or pavement repairs not exceeding $300,000 annually. Thurston County crews will prioritize our work prior to working for other agencies, and generally work for other agencies is done on overtime or on a weekend basis. It doesn't impact our normal operations or the priorities that we have for our own county roadway system. The services that we provide are negotiated under separate scopes of work, and the services requested by Mason County or of Mason County by Thurston County would be paid for through the county road fund. So let's see, and then we don't have any services we are planning on asking them to do right now. But again, this summer we plan on doing road striping. I think about 400 centerline miles that we'll be doing this year. So. Any questions?
Any questions, Scott?
No.
Yep. No. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a master interlocal agreement between Thurston County and Mason County for roadway maintenance activities, such as roadway striping, street lighting, and pavement repairs up to not exceeding $300,000 annually.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Sure. Next item is 4B, which is a contract award for 2017 guardrail replacement project. And Matt Unzelman, how you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Huntsman, Civil Engineer, Thurston County Public Works. On April 24th, Public Works received and opened a bid for a guardrail repair project to repair guardrail at 5 locations on Old Highway 99 between the Lewis County line and State Route 12. Staff used the Small Works roster to solicit these bids. The bid was from Dirt and Aggregate Interchange of Fairview, Oregon, in the amount of $42,750. These costs will come from the County Road Fund. Public Works is requesting permission from the Board of County Commissioners to authorize the director to execute the contract with Dirt and Aggregate Interchange.
All right. Any questions on Matt?
No, Matt.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to award a contract for the 2017 guardrail replacement project to Dirt and Aggregate Interchange Incorporated of Fairview, Oregon, in the amount of $42,750, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract and any change orders for this project due to unforeseen conditions only, not for changes in scope, up to 20% of the contract, or $8,550, or an aggregate amount of $51,300.
Second. It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, and the motion carries.
Appreciate it.
You bet, Matt. Thank you. Next, we have the Department of Resource Stewardship, and it's a set of public hearing. I think Jeremy Davis is going to lead us through that.
Sure. Chair Blake, Commissioners, Jeremy Davis, Thurston County Resource Stewardship, Long Range Planning. Yes, today we're here to request the Board of County Commissioners set a public hearing to take testimony on a proposed amendment in the Residential Sensitive Resource Zoning District, which is in the Tumwater Urban Growth Area Zoning Ordinance. The Tumwater Urban Growth Area Zoning Ordinance, of course, governs land use and zoning for the Tumwater Urban Growth Area and the unincorporated portion. The city of Tumwater adopted an amendment to their version of the Residential Sensitive Resource Zoning District on April 18th. 2017. And what happened is when we adopted the low impact development standard in December, we went to implement that and found out there were some issues for larger lot sizes and agricultural uses in the zoning district and found that it was too restrictive. So what we're putting forward for the public hearing are two ideas. One is to revert back to the old standard, which may not necessarily work for ag uses either, and that just placed a limit on the overall building coverage. The other proposed standard or option for this public hearing, option B, is to have the county adopt the standard recently adopted by the city of Tumwater, which is a graduated standard that is based on lot sizes. It ends up being about a 7% to 8% impervious surface coverage limit for those larger lot sizes. We have already gone ahead and done the 60-day notification for the Department of Commerce and asked for expedited review, and they granted that. So that box is checked. We've also conducted the State Environmental Policy Act review on the proposed amendment, so we're ready to move forward in that regard. So with the hearing, we're asking that you schedule that for July 11th as an afternoon public hearing. We didn't receive very many public comments at the Planning Commission public hearing on this. Are there any questions on this one, or?
Yep. RSR is Residential Sensitive Resource, right? Is that
Yes,
what-
sir.
Mhm. And can you just kind of recap that in layman's terms of why we're doing this in order to make it better for zoning and while this is happening?
So the Residential Sensitive Resource Zoning District was first adopted by Thurston County with the adoption of the joint plans back in 1995. And the intention of the district is to place it over environmentally sensitive areas and also high groundwater hazard areas in the Tumwater Urban Growth Area and also in the city of Tumwater. It's primarily used in the Percival Creek drainage basin and then also in the 88th Avenue area where we have some high groundwater flooding issues. One of the main purposes of this proposed amendment is to go for a less restrictive alternative to accommodate more intensive uses on some of those larger lot sizes and to actually allow them to have an accessory dwelling or accessory home for their family member and also for their accessory agricultural buildings.
Right.
The standard that we adopted in December of 2016 we found was too restrictive to accommodate those.
Right. And so be able to develop and still protect the environment.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We're doing both of them. This doesn't change any of the critical area regulations or anything.
There you go. All righty. With that in mind, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to set a public hearing for July 11, 2017 at 3 p.m. or soon thereafter at the Thurston County Courthouse Complex, Building 1, in Room 280, to accept public comment on whether or not to amend the impervious surface standards in the Residential Sensitive Resource Zoning District in the Tumwater UGA zoning ordinance, Title 22, and for other matters property related thereto.
Second.
It's moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, Jeremy.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. So we move on to county commissioners and county managers items. And the first item we have is the set of public hearing for the second quarter budget amendment by Robin Campbell.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good.
Never sure whether I need to push the button or
Yeah.
not. So this afternoon, I'm here to request that you set a public hearing for the second quarter budget amendment for the 2017-2018 budget, and that public hearing would be on June 27th at 3 o'clock right here in this room. The second quarter budget amendment consists mostly of technical adjustments. For example, now that we've closed the fiscal year for 2016, we need to adjust the beginning fund balance from the estimated amount to the actual amount in every fund. And really, that's the bulk of the second quarter amendment. Other changes are from the receipt of unanticipated grants, increasing efficiency in how programs are delivered, and carrying forward projects that were not completed in 2016. The details of the amendment are the requests from the offices and departments, and they'll be posted on our county website, and then notice for the public meeting will be published in the Olympian and the Nisqually Valley News. And I'd be happy to take any questions about the proposal.
Any questions?
I do.
Yeah, sure. Have.
I would hope that at some point between now and the time we discuss this, that we would be able to address those concerns brought up by Mr. Pettit today, just to make sure we're spending our money the way we should spend our money, to assure the public that we're trying to make some changes and heading in the right direction.
Yes, of course.
And from all the quarterly budget amendments, they come from departments and offices or the elected officials. And each quarter we do this in order to make the adjustments.
That's correct.
Okay, sure. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a resolution setting a public hearing for June 27, 2017 at 3 p.m. at the Thurston County Courthouse, Building 1 in Room 280, to receive public comment on the second quarter budget amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
You bet. So the next item we have is the set of public hearing on the formation of a cultural arts stadium and convention district. And with that, I ask Mr. Romero Chavez to lead us through that.
Thank you, Commissioner. This particular proposal is for you to hear public testimony on July 25th, 2017 at 5:30 in this room, related for the potential creation of the Cultural Arts Stadium and Convention Center. I believe Commissioner Hutchins is going to read into the record the resolution which outlines some of the background and the next steps that you as a commission may take as we move forward in this effort.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
This is resolution number 15476. A resolution of the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners calling for a public hearing on the proposed creation of a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district pursuant to Chapter 67.38 RCW. Whereas it is the policy of the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners, the BoCC, to promote and facilitate the orderly development of economic stability of the communities within Thurston County, and whereas local governments need the ability to raise revenue to finance public improvements that are designed to encourage economic growth and development in their communities, and whereas the lack of public improvements such as convention centers, hinders the economic vitality of Thurston County and the surrounding region. And whereas the development of public improvements to support cultural arts, stadium, and convention services will encourage investment in job-producing private development and expand the public tax base in Thurston County. And whereas Chapter 67.38 RCW provides the authority to create a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district, and the means to finance the construction of such public improvements to support cultural arts, stadium, and convention services in accordance with a local economic comprehensive plan. And whereas a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district may be initiated by the BoCC through adoption of a resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed creation of such a district and delineating proposed boundaries. And whereas within 60 days of the adoption of such resolution calling for a public hearing, the BoCC shall hold a public hearing on the proposed creation of such district. And whereas at the conclusion of the public hearing and within 2 years of the public hearing, the BoCC may adopt a second resolution to submit a proposition to the voters of the proposed district to create a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district. And whereas the district shall be created upon approval of the proposition by simple majority vote. And whereas the BoCC finds the creation of a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district is in the public interest, and that the area included with the district can reasonably be expected to benefit from its creation. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Thurston County Board of Commissioners calls for a public hearing on July 25, 2017, on the proposed creation of a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district, whose boundaries will be coextensive with the boundaries of Thurston County for the development of public improvements to support cultural arts, stadium, or convention services.
Okay. With that in mind, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a resolution setting a public hearing for July 25th, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. at the Thurston County Courthouse, Building 1, Room 280, to receive public comment on the creation of a cultural arts, stadium, and convention district.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
No.
Yes.
Yes? What would you like to say?
I personally, in opining on this, and am excited about such a proposition of having some type of a convention center in, or recreation, whatever it's called, in Thurston County. And I like the fact that we're taking our time and involving the public at every step of the way as well. And if the public decides not to have it, fine, but if they choose to do it, we're ready to go. I think it's going to be an excellent opportunity for Thurston County and the local cities in promoting fun, fair, and living and economic development in Thurston County.
You, sir?
I guess I'd just like to echo that same thought, if you will, that it's about time that here we are at the state capitol, and we need a valid economic engine to get our economy up and running, and this is probably one of the better things we can do. I'd like to remind the public that initially this vote is not about money. It's only about the concept to see if the public agrees that we should move forward with getting our economic engine going here in that fashion.
Yeah, great. I'd like to also echo some of the comments that keeping in pace with changing times and the new generations and the future that's coming with our kids and the growing population, I also think it's about time that we talk about having a convention center. And yes, you're right, it can be called many different things, recreational or cultural arts, but more business-oriented, I would imagine. Especially with the state legislation here, the governor and other key leaders need to have a convention center to bring and promote business within Thurston County. We are a great county, and we need to show it and live it and be it, and this is where it starts with a good conversation. So it's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and motion carries. Okay, so the next item we have on our agenda is for commissioners to talk about any of their assignments or discussions they might have had out with the public. And I'll just turn it to Mr. Gary Edwards to see if he has anything, and then Mr. Hutchins.
Well, other than attending all of the issues, and I'd bore everybody if I started going through all the different activities that we've had this week, but I would like to comment that I'm very concerned hearing today that we've possibly got a breakdown in relationships with our lake management districts and county staff. And those folks in the lake management districts sound like they feel that there is a problem, and I would like to definitely hear back from staff about that issue to see if we can't rectify that, because I think we need to be working together on this. They tax themselves. We don't spend taxpayer money from generally around the county. They tax themselves and they expect a service, and I would hope that we could provide that service. The other issue that I'm concerned about is discrepancies that seem to arise over the testing and findings out at Summit Lake to make sure that everything is looked into properly. I'm not making accusations or anything. I just want to get to the bottom of the discrepancies that seem to be existing amongst, again, staff and the community. And I want to assure the community that we want to do the best we can to keep our water quality as good as it can be, but be responsible in that process. So I would hope I'll hear back from staff on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ditto. And it's been 2 weeks, so I have a real short list.
Okay.
I attended the Public Works Appreciation Breakfast and was given a ride in one of the dump trucks with a big scoop out front in preparation for their rodeo and the national rodeo, and was jostled and thrown all around the front of that doggone truck, and it was a hoot. I have a lot of respect for the people in our Public Works Department. Met with Olympia Master Builders and talked about changes that we have here at the county in codes and dockets and the HCP, or Habitat Conservation Plan efforts. I took a tour of the Chelsea Farms oyster beds and clam beds last week, and that was a huge eye-opener. And attended the Memorial Day celebration at the state capitol, which was exceptionally moving. And then later attended the Woodlawn Memorial Service in that afternoon out in Lacey. Attended the JASCOM, that's the Joint Animal Services Committee for Animal Services, consortium of all the local governments sit on that. We sit on that committee, and even though it's run by Lacey, it's a joint effort. And we're going through visionary and mission statements, those types of things, to bring it into the up to speed. The Thurston Regional Planning Council, we had a retreat in Bucota, beautiful downtown Bucota, for 6 hours last week, doing our strategic plan for the next couple of years. And then I attended the county-city partnership last Friday night that Commissioner Blake will talk about. And then finally, yesterday, I attended the Kiwanis Law Enforcement Appreciation luncheon that the Kiwanis put on at Tugboat Annie's every year. And this was started so many years ago by then County Prosecuting Attorney Pat Sutherland. And it's the only one that's done in the county, and I'm not sure if it's the only one done in the state, but it's a priceless event. Well, it was not priceless. I paid for my lunch. But it is every law enforcement jurisdiction in the county, to include state patrol, is recognized with officers and deputies and such of the year, and some heroic deeds that these men and women have done throughout the year. Very, very touching. And I look forward to that, having been a recipient of that back in the late 80s and early 90s, which was nice. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So some of the things I'll touch on is similar to both of my seatmates here, but also for Memorial Day weekend, I attended the Rotundo event at the Capitol, and then I attended one at Tumwater as far as recognizing some of our fallen soldiers. It's all service members. It's exceptionally great here in Thurston County that each year the outcome is just wonderful. People attending or presenting in some sort of way, it really speaks volumes to how we remember those who have fallen in protecting our Constitution and our constitutional rights. So it's great stuff. He did mention that we had a county and city government partnership dinner with Tenino, Rainier, and Bucota, and the county as a whole, and that was one of the first times that they've ever had that kind of setting. We discussed things such as land use, some commerce that's happening in the South County, roads and bridges as is applicable, and of course emergency management. And it's great to have these connections and this engaging with the relationship building, because it's ongoing. We see each other a lot, but we never have enough time to really sit down and talk some things through. And while we didn't make any decisions whatsoever, just be able to know where we feel about what we feel about a particular issue and where we can reach out and help each other is really rewarding. So another item that we all took a briefing on is from the Thurston Conservation District. They gave an overview and assessment, and it was action-packed for the hour. It went over, in fact. It was about an hour and 10 minutes long. And some of the things they do as far as the Conservation District, preserving and conserving some of the habitat and wildlife, and particularly the water quality of here throughout Thurston County. They're very engaged as far as their work, and it showed that day. They had the great stats, the great outcomes as far as their work, and we really do appreciate their work. Also, another item that we took a briefing on was the Henderson Inlet Septic System Management. It comes around every 10 years, and this happens to be the 10th year. And while I think we're in agreement that we're going to continue with the program, we still have a little bit of work to do as far as adjusting any of the funding or that goes with it, or any adjustment at all. That's actually where we're at, is looking at the dollars in terms of being able to make sure that's funded for a number of years. We get to name the number of years, either 10, 7, 20 years. We got to do that also. But that's been a very successful program in the Henderson Inlet for many years back when there was issues as far as the contamination that went into the water, and that's been a successful comeback. So we're really proud of not only us here in the county, but in the state that's made that happen. And finally, Thurston Thrives. I'm a big fan of Thurston Thrives, and it's Thurston Thrives, just to recap, is a community health initiative with the county and the Thurston County Chamber Foundation. And jointly we do that, and I went on the road to 2 service organizations and just gave a good overview as far as how Thurston Thrive works here, and as far as the 8 teams and the coordinating council, and just where we're at as far as the status of that. So good stuff that's going on, and look forward to coming back and briefing you on more. So with that in mind, I'll turn to the county manager and see if he has any last-minute things he'd like to say about the calendar or any other items.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd just like to walk you through the upcoming calendar and the next week. And again, the appointments that I'm going to mention is going to be at least 2 commissioners will be present. You may have individual appointments on your individual calendars, and those are not reflected on my report. Starting tomorrow, June 7th, at 10 in the morning, you have a briefing on the Marvin Road transportation improvements that is related to concurrency. At 10:30 tomorrow morning, you also have a briefing on the site remediation of a county property that is related to the Burnett property on the west side of Olympia. At 11:15, you have the opportunity to welcome new employees, and that will give you the opportunity to express your vision to new employees. A great opportunity. At 2 in the afternoon, from 2 to 3:30, we have the Jail Population Crisis Action Team meeting. And that is a continuation of 2 meetings. One, the first was held last September 2016. A follow-up meeting was in February of this year. And the objective of this particular team is to see how, with the law and justice partners here in the county, can reduce jail population. That is the main objective. 3:30 in the afternoon tomorrow, you will have a briefing on the central services rates for 2018. Moving on to Thursday, June 8th, at 9 in the morning, you have an update from Superior Court that will be from Judge Murphy, the presiding judge. At 10 in the morning, you will have a commissioner's check-in, and I will have an agenda posted by tomorrow with many different items for your discussion. At 12, you will have the opportunity to have luncheon with your appointed directors. And at 1 in the afternoon, you will have a briefing on the parks budget. Moving on to Friday, June 9th, at 9 in the morning, there is the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization, TMBHO, Governing Board meeting where Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Blake are representing that board. Next week, on Monday, June 12th, you don't have nothing on your combined calendar. And then that will put us into Tuesday, June 13th, where we start doing all over again with your board meeting scheduled for the afternoon. Thank you.
Yep. Any final comments?
No.
Any final comments?
No, sir.
No. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the Board of County Commissioners meeting of June 6, 2017.
Second.
It's been moved and second, moved to adjourn the Board of County Commissioners meeting on June 6, 2017. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.